Now, biologists and chemists used to be left pretty much to their own devices when it comes to metrology. And since they were brought into the fold, our next speaker says that metrology actually has its work cut out to keep up with biology and chemistry and advancements in those fields. So it's my great pleasure to invite Professor Willie May up to tell us more. Professor.
Good afternoon. I said that? I don't remember all that. I have stepped away from this community for about 6 or 7 years. I miss you guys. I'm so happy to be invited back. Let's see if I can. You don't have. I can't
guarantee this is going to work, but there we go. Okay, cool.
Okay, gotcha. So, we all know why we're here, so that we don't have to spend a lot of time here. We're here to celebrate the meter convention, 150 years old today. And as has been said earlier, this all started with the establishment of the International Committee on Weights and Measures. At that time, 18 wise men, now 18 wise people from around the world, who were elected to oversee the meter system, or the measurements worldwide. Now, these 18 wise people can't be all-knowing, so there are 10 consultative committees that they've set up to provide deeper expertise in various measurement areas. And the one that covers chemistry and biology is the 𝐶CQM, or Consultative Committee on Metrology and Chemistry and Biology. I think the initial title was the Consultative Committee on the Amount of Material, but really, when you're talking about biology, it's not only the amount, it's a bit more, and I'll say more about that later. Now, the context for chemical measurements. For metrology, and obviously chemistry is core and important to virtually everything about life, and all in industrial sectors and technology areas. For metrology and chemistry, how do we set that apart from physical metrology? For metrology and chemistry, you're talking about the measurement, a determination of a specific quantity, a specific chemical entity in a matrix. So it's not the amount of substance, it's amount of a particular chemical substance in a particular matrix. So it requires not only the amount, but the particular identity of that entity that we are determining the amount of. So, and chemical measurements are multidimensional. It's not just the amount of stuff, it is the amount of maybe 10 to the 5 different chemical entities across a broad range of matrices, from food, soil, blood, you name it, and in mass fractions covering over 12 orders of magnitude. And we're talking about measurements that are made on a daily basis. If you go to the extreme, probably you could extend that another 2 or 3 orders of magnitude. So that's the complexity of measurements in chemistry. Large number of compounds measured, large mass fraction range, and they can be in lots of different types of stuff. This just gives you a bird's eye view of the complexity when it comes to measuring chemical entities in foods alone. So in foods, 50 to 60 elemental species measured every day, more than 10 to the 5 organic compounds or species, and they cover a broad concentration range. So that's the scope of the problem that we're trying to address, that we have to address. I often put this slide up to dig at my physical metrology friends, so here it is again, guys. The questions that you ask in physical, chemical, and biological measurements are different. A physical measurement is basically, what is the mass of Willie? 85 kilograms. What is Willie's blood pressure? A chemical problem is, how much cholesterol is there in Willie's blood? A biological problem would be, which cholesterol-lowering drug would be best for me in terms of efficacy, lowering my blood pressure, and the absence of side effects. So the questions that you ask as you go from physical metrology to chemical and biological, they expand, they explode in terms of dimensionality and complexity. So the 𝐶𝐶QM was given the task to try to address this basically impossible problem. So the first meeting of the organization tried to make it as much like physics as we could. So we thought about doing things like study of metals in solution, measurement of gases. Now we could have done this, and we could have done this well, but it would have had no impact on society. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We decided for metrology and chemistry and biology, it had to have an impact on society, not just a bunch of NMIs getting together and doing comparisons and putting those in a database. We wanted it to address human and societal problems at the same time. So after 2 meetings, we agreed on some terms of reference and we were off and running. So the terms of reference for the 𝐶𝐶QM is or will be responsible for developing, improving, and documenting the equivalence of national standards, those who are certified reference materials, or reference measurement procedures, reference methods for chemistry and biology. It also advises the CIPM on matters related to chemical and biological measurements, including advice on the scope of the BIPM's scientific programs in chemistry and biology. So that is the task that we gave ourselves. So I think I've said that. You can see that from those meetings of about 10 people, mainly men, in 1991. Now the 𝐶𝐶QM has gone to a large organization, 43 institutes attend meetings here in Paris at the BIPM every April. There are 12 working groups and six special task groups within the 𝐶𝐶QM. The annual meetings that are held in April are attended by representatives from around 110 representatives from member and observer states, and including people online, almost 600 that are there during 𝐶CQM here in Paris on an annual basis. And yes, we have for those you from the metrology community, this means something to you, over 6,400 CMCs are currently published in the key comparison database based on work that we've done. This is the second from the last meeting I attended. I probably should have gotten a more contemporary picture, but you can see the group is a bit more diverse than it was when it started back, say, more than 25 years ago, and it has expanded to include the global society, and it expanded a lot more since I've gone. So, looking to the future, we are now, or they are now, having comparisons that respond to grand challenges. And you can see the areas that we're doing comparisons in: climate change and the environment, health and life sciences, food safety and nutrition, energy, advanced manufacturing, digital transformation, semiconductor characterization. So actually having comparisons to go into the BIPM database to look, but also that address, again, global and societal problems. And I think the fact that we're focusing on these things that actually address human issues and so forth, that is the reason for the rapid and explosive growth of interest in this area. Don't have time to go into this, but we have several types of comparisons that we've developed and to guide our work. This is just examples of a few of the several hundred comparisons that we've conducted over the last 25 years. Just example of some having to do with clinical chemistry. And we've done two things. One thing is to actually do comparisons to assemble or accumulate data to put in the BIPM key comparison database. But we felt that we had an obligation that went a bit further than that. So we actually do comparisons on the reference materials that NMIs sell to their customers. And that is what you see there in the lower 𝐶CQM 𝐭80, where we've compared the veracity, if you will, of reference materials issued by NMIs for the same quantity. In this case, this is creatinine and serum. So this actually shows customers how well the comparison of the reference materials that we provide. So when, for example, NIST doesn't have reference materials, when they've run out of stock, they know how reliable the reference materials that they might get from another NMI might be. And this is valuable information that we provide to our customers as a service to them. Just an example of some of the things we've done. So for the chem bio community, the CIPM MRA has provided a means for NMIs to document and vet the capabilities they maintain to underpin the measurement services that they provide for customers. That is what is done in physical metrology as well. The one thing in addition that we're doing in the 𝐶CQM, I have done, is provide a basis for customers to assess the degree of comparability of a given service. that is, the reference materials provided by NMIs as well. So, the 𝐶CQM has really become a global forum for progressing the state of the art for chemical and biological measurements. The 𝐶CQM has, without a doubt, enabled NMIs to identify spikes of excellence within the chem bio world that have led to the establishment of strategic collaborations for both research and standards development purposes among NMIs. So through our exercise, we are able to identify potential partners in delivering measurement services. But what that has done for the community is improve the quality of chemical and biological measurements within the worldwide NMI community, which has led to better, more, and higher quality services to end users. So again, it's not just something we get together as a club and carry out comparisons to put it in the key comparison database. We are actually reaching out and providing superior services to the worldwide community of end users. Thank you for your attention.
Please do take a seat because we need your witnessing of the shaping of the conversation to come. So before we dive into the promised panel, we will continue to create these bridges between metrology's past and its contemporary importance. Our next speaker will be exploring how it plays such an important role in limiting or letting loose our capacity for technological and social progress. It's my great pleasure to invite Dr. Nathalie von Siemens to take the stage.
Standards, international, technology, efficiency, quality, scale, production, disruption, better life. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the Industrial Revolution, the biggest impact on human life since the Neolithic Revolution and the development of agriculture about 20,000 years ago. It was probably not conceivable without the principle of the French Revolution, liberté, égalité, fraternité, and it was certainly not possible without the young science of metrology. The science which is a prerequisite for precision, scalability, and global technical progress. Standardization and interchangeability. Industrial production demanded exactly the same parts. Metrology made it possible to standardize measures so that components matched regardless of the place of production. Efficiency in mass production. Precise measurement enabled efficient adjustment of machinery and serial production, a core characteristic of the Industrial Revolution. Quality control. Metrology made it possible to check products for their dimensions and tolerances. Defective products could be easily identified and non-conformity could be reduced. International trade relations. Standardized weights and measures facilitated trade. The introduction of metric systems and international standards supported the global spread of industrial products. The MITE Convention that we celebrate today. and scientific progress as such. Many developments of the Industrial Revolution, for example in thermodynamics and mechanics, were based on precise measurements. Metrology is doubtless the basic science of the Industrial Revolution. And I am convinced metrology is also key for the digital revolution. But first, back to industrialization. There are few places in the world where it is clearer than in Paris, there is no revolution without revolutionaries. Today, I would like to remember two of my favorite revolutionaries. My great-great-grandfather Werner von Siemens and my great-great-grandfather Hermann von Helmholtz. They were close friends, their children married, and 5 generations later, I have the honor to be standing here. Werner von Siemens, the great entrepreneur who discovered and applied the dynamo-electric principle, which is fundamental to industrial production as we know it today. Hermann von Helmholtz, the physician, the scientist and philosopher, who not only left us the eye mirror, but also contributed significantly to the recognition of the then still controversial law of energy conservation. Both relied on the still young scientific mathematical method. Together, they founded the Physikalisch-Technische Reichsanstalt, now known to probably all of you as PTB, a revolutionary institute. It was the first German public-private partnership for science, the first for scientific research outside universities, and the first to combine basic research and industrial application, as well as a physics and a technology department. It is no surprise that the revolutionary setup later created breakthrough measurements in science, leading, for example, to quantum technology based on Max Planck's theory. There's another pattern first embodied in the PTB, a pattern that we again recognize in the digital revolution. Silos are being torn down and cross-disciplinary structures are being created for innovation and horizontal dialogue. But back to Werner von Siemens and Hermann von Helmholtz. Both wanted to use the tremendous possibilities of the new age to create benefits and serve mankind, to be able to execute projects of previously unheard scope and scale, like the famous Indo-European telegraph line. Werner von Siemens knew to cover the distance from London to Calcutta with a telegraph line, he needed plug-and-play cables. He also needed reliable and accepted standards and the definition of electrical measures. These were on his wish list for the first task of PTB. The result? A message from London to Calcutta no longer took 30 days, if the messengers survived, but 30 minutes, reliably. At the beginning of all such great changes are people. There is no change without change makers. Change is difficult and complex and very often not welcome. Change makers need encouragement and appreciation. We all need encouragement and appreciation. This is the purpose of the Helmholtz Award and the Werner von Siemens Ring. The Helmholtz Award for outstanding work in the field of precision measurement in physics, chemistry, and medicine is awarded every 2 years in 2 categories: basic research in metrology and applied metrology. In each category, the prize consists of a certificate and prize money of €20,000. In 2024, both categories were awarded for pioneering successes with light. With the newly developed microscopy technique, the physics group, led by Professor Baum from the University of Constance, succeeded in capturing the extremely fast movements of atoms and electrons like a movie. For applied measurement technology, the award went to the interdisciplinary physics and medicine team from Leibniz University Hannover, Professor Bernhard Roth, and the University Medical Center Rostock, Professor Steffen Emmert, for their innovations in optical biopsy in skin cancer diagnostics. The Werner von Siemens Ring is regarded as the Nobel Prize in Technical Sciences and is endowed with 100,000 euros. The 42nd Werner von Siemens Ring honors Peter Kurz from Zeiss and Michael Kösters from Trumpf for the development of high-NA EUV lithography and the industrial utilization of EUV technology, the core of high-performance microchips. Which brings us to the heart of the digital revolution. And again, it's about standards, mechanization, international production, scale, disruption, technology, and better life. And again, metrology is key for revolutionaries. Because precision metrology enables us to work at the nano level, as in the case of Peter and Michael. And again, we need a common metric, because it leads to standardization, and standardization is the key to conquering new markets. Standards increase the receptiveness of existing markets to new products. Standards offer investment security and boost the acceptance of innovation. And examples from Siemens AG. The market for innovative equipment for digitalization in the smart grid sector only really got opening after the IEC 61850 series of standards. The same applies to cybersecurity solutions for SCADA solutions and OT systems. Here, it was the IEC 61443 that enabled the business breakthrough. Now, imagine machine learning and generative agent AI and stop. In all the breathlessness chasing great entrepreneurial opportunities, it is important to pause for thought. Because in every revolution, good outcomes come at a price. With the Industrial Revolution, we first encountered a form of poverty that we call pauperism. With the Industrial Revolution, the overexploitation of our planet began. Today, the climate crisis and its causes can no longer be denied. And many fear the digital revolution, jobs not being necessary anymore, digital divide, geopolitical tensions, and war. The complexity of the reality we experience is increasing ever rapidly, not least due to artificial intelligence. I am convinced that the digital revolution is still young and that it holds the opportunity for a better life for all people. If we embrace complexity and take the hard way of data-driven scientific knowledge, just take climate crisis. In the future, smart cities will be essentially sensor networks, enabling not only efficient energy supply from renewables, but optimized and timely health services or intelligent mobility. Hermann von Helmholtz wrote in 1891, "Science and art are currently the only remaining bond of peace among nations. Their ever-increasing development is a common goal of all, to be pursued in the common work of all, for the common benefit of all. This planet and all its inhabitants have the brightest future if we remain in dialogue, in education and in science, in culture and politics, technology and entrepreneurship." Like all the people who have been working for the Meter Convention for 150 years. A very diverse team working together for all people and all times. Happy birthday. Thank you for the energy that you commit to this great cause. It's worth it. And scientists know energy is not lost.
Well, that's raised the stakes somewhat. I'm hoping that our next panel will keep the energy up. If I can invite all of the panelists to please join me on stage and take any seat that takes your fancy, and then we'll crack on with the conversation. Thank you so much Dr. von Siemens, for your really moving speech there, which I think has really set out the stakes of metrology beyond just the technical. So it is my pleasure to be joined by a very esteemed selection of experts who spent years crafting the metrological landscape. So yes, there we go. So before I crack on, I'm just going to whiz through and introduce the new additions to the stage. Bear with me 1 minute. So thank you very much, Dr. von Siemens, who we've heard from. Obviously, Professor Willie May, thank you very much. We are also joined by Professor 𝐕 Dr. Pascal Defresne, and Dr. Henry Rotich. So I'm going to start off with you, Pascal, because we've heard from Willie about the work being done in biology and chemistry. Dr. von Siemens has kind of widened the conversation beyond just the technical. But another really important field within metrology is time and frequency, which is your speciality. So give us a bit of a sense, first of all, what your field's priorities are, what you're most excited about, and what you wish could work a bit better.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to the BIPM for inviting me to share my passion about time and frequency. So the first priority that we have, it's not new, but it has to continue in the future, is to build UTC, the Universal Time Coordinated, which is the official time in the world, the reference in the world. So more and more in the world, we need synchronization of different systems. And to ensure this synchronization, we need a reference, and that is UTC. I can give as an example the telecommunication systems who need synchronization, certainly at the microsecond level, now financial transaction as well. So all these systems, the GNSS, the satellite navigation systems, also need very, very accurate synchronization. And so it is very important that the time and frequency community continues this continuous effort, because it's not just one measurement. The time, we have to build it every day, every minute, every second. It's a global collaboration of time laboratories which are distributed in more than 70 countries. And so they are developed countries or less developed countries, and we have really a huge community which is collaborating on this global effort. So that is certainly the first priority that we have. Now, we have heard this morning during the talk of Bill Phillips that we are in progress for a redefinition of the second, because we have now optical clocks with systematic uncertainties which are up to 2 orders of magnitude better than the primary frequency standards that are based on the current definition, so based on the cesium atom, one transition of the cesium atom. And so we need this new definition to allow frequency measurements with an accuracy that is at the same level as the technological developments that we have now, and that will still evolve in the future. And so there is also another priority regarding the regain of interest concerning lunar exploration. The space agencies now ask us to define a reference time on the moon. Because due to the relativity, of course, the time on the moon is not the same as on the Earth. So we have to define a new reference for all activities on and around the moon, and to define theoretically what should be that time, and also how to realize it. Because at the beginning we have only clocks on the Earth. Maybe in the future there will be clocks on the moon, but for the moment we have only clocks on the Earth. So we have to propose some realization of that reference time on the moon. So that is maybe what is the most exciting for the moment, because we dream about the moon time.
I feel bad bringing us back down to earth. But thank you so much for that. That's super exciting, and it's great that we can, look at future challenges in a positive way, with a sense of excitement rather than just seeing them as challenges and hurdles. Dr. Rotic, I'm going to come to you now. We've heard throughout the day talk about just how much has been achieved by collaboration, how important it is with global collaboration. How does collaboration, what is it looking like in the African continent when it comes to collaboration? The continent's seen steady progress, because I think originally there were no African signatories. Today we have 6 full member states, 3 associate states, but when we spoke, you said you were super excited about the potential for all of that to pick up in light of some of the potential of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So tell us a bit about collaborative plans on that front.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Henry Rotic. I'm the current chairman of AfriMets and also the chairman of Pan-African Quality Infrastructure. I think that puts where metrology is one of the pillars in the PACI structures. The institutes, we are 4 of them. So metrology within the continent, of course, was a bit the latest entrant. We started with a few members who signed the Visa Convention, and we have grown over time. Right now, we have 5 full members and 7 associates. And within the regional metrology organization, we have a number of countries who are members. And I can say that within the continent now, most countries are actively participating in some of the comparisons that we organize within the continent. Metrology is very, very important for us within the continent because we have the initiative of Africa Continental Free Trade Area. I'm sure you're aware that the continent is the continent with the youngest, the largest population of young people. And so there's a lot of innovation, a lot of development of new products which are required by these consumers who are young people. So we look forward towards metrology playing a very important role in value addition of the products that we produce, the raw materials that we produce, so that we also get value for what we manufacture and also what we produce as the raw materials. We can add value to these products. I know at the BIPM, I'm really happy because I've seen a lot of support from BIPM. From the very first time when we had the boots from BIPM stepping in Kenya, and I think Professor Willie came with a big delegation. That was in 2008 when we had the first regional, the first metrology conference that we held in Kenya. And we've really benefited because we've had placement of our young scientists in most of the NMIs. We've also had support from NIST, Chris, even Tubitak Ume, and also other NMIs. I think when I'm here, every time I come for a meeting, one of the things that really surprises me is that I think we are true to the spirit of the Visa Convention to democratize measurements and also make it accessible to all. So when I look at the team today, it reminds me of the Chinese saying by Confucius, San Ren Xing, Yo Bi Wo Shi. It means for every 3 people walking, there must be one who is my teacher. So when we interact with the international community of experts at from NMIs, every time I engage, they are all willing to help. In fact, they don't say, wait, I write a letter. No, we deal with the issues right there and then. So I think we have reached that level, and we've really benefited as a region. And we look forward to more interactions so that we also develop metrology within the African continent. Thank you.
Before I move on, so that is the benefit that's been yielded by kind of external support given to African NMIs. What is the relationship between NMIs within the continent?
We have AfriMet, which is our regional metrology organization, which is linked to the BIPM as one of the regional metrology organizations. And we organize comparisons, which we have within the continent, and also we sometimes also have some comparisons that are coordinated by other NMIs, and we linked up with them. And this really helps.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henry Rotich. Dr. Gopal, now we were speaking about just how much has been coming out of India's economy. It's expanding rapidly. How's metrology keeping up?
Right, thank you, Georgia. So our GDP is increasing, but we have a large denominator of huge population, right? So our challenges are to bring together or to meet the needs, to meet the expectations, and to meet the tradition. Just to explain, like, so our needs remain the same. Our needs remain the same, that like food and water safety and security. We need clean energy. We need to look at environment. We need to look at traditional medicine, for example. We need to look at traditional local industries. We need to look at the support, how we can give to the industry. And at the same time, we are also to be ambitious in the sense that, like, we don't want to be followers still. We want to be today as far as newer technologies, whether it is quantum, AI, or digital metrology is concerned. We want to be in today's developments. So these are our challenges. Our challenges are to get all these things together and bring the focus of metrology to our policymakers, to our funding agencies, so that we bring in support and stand up and deliver for the nation.
How are those conversations going? Is there anything that the external community can do to advocate or to boost the impact of them?
It's always like, I mean, I come from a non-metrology background. I got welcomed very nicely by the community. So I say that, like, so metrology is a minority community in the world in terms of science and technology, but we need to be close-knit, and I see that cooperation is there. There is a lot of support. For example, PTB helps us, NPL UK, NIST. So we have close collaborations as much as possible. So PTB SARC program is one thing which is really helping the regional developments. Then we have PTB also part of Clean Ganga River project. It's a mission of Government of India. So we do collaborate with them as much as possible. So these bring in visibility needed for the metrology in the country. Yes.
Thank you so much. Willie, what do you think that the nature of the challenges of the 𝐶𝐶QM are different to those faced by other consultative committees?
Well, yes, because chemistry is different. What we are doing is implementing the MR, the mutual recognition arrangement, in a way that makes sense and has meaning for the chemical community.
Please elaborate. So what meaning are you trying to build in that you think is currently lacking?
Well, first of all, the activities that we are undertaking really has meaning and provides growth opportunities for chemistry and biology and NMIs around the globe. If you roll the clock back 20 years ago, I would say that NPL had a chemistry program, NIST had a chemistry program, PTB had a chemistry program, and I'm sure I'm going to leave some folks out, but that was not very, very widespread. I think it's the work that we've done in the CC curriculum that demonstrated the benefit and impact of chemical metrology in chemical measurement science and metrology in biological measurement science to NMIs, to the countries, and that has led to an explosive growth of participation, but also it has driven hiring decisions in NMIs. Most NMIs now have an active chemical metrology program and biological program, metrology program. That was not the case 20 years ago.
That's super interesting. Nathalie, when we were talking earlier, you were really emphasizing that you feel, and I think it was reflected in your talk, that the pathways and even the people that metrology needs to tackle whatever's coming down the road, they're already modeled in what came before. Can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, thank you. I've chosen to bring with me both of my great-great-grandfathers because I think they symbolize a certain character trait which will be important in the future. So as much as we see a lot of differences from those times to today's challenges in the digital revolution, where we standardize in a different way. Look, this is done in open communities. It's about the standards and protocols that are arising there are rather club goods. So this is different. Still, I believe that there is a certain kind of person that we need to tackle all this. And the center of this personality I find in Werner von Siemens and in Hermann von Helmholtz is resilience. So resilience being the agility to change behavior or attitude vis-a-vis a challenge. That has a lot to do with purpose. So it's people with a purpose. So Werner von Siemens once said that the value of an idea lies in the use that it and the benefit that it generates for people. It's about embracing complexity. So Hermann von Helmholtz compared his work to mountaineering. And it was not that he wanted to enjoy the fantastic view once he reached the top of the mountain. It was to emphasize that sometimes you lose your way and then you have to turn back. So it's about being able to admit a mistake that does not make you a loser. So in that way, I think these qualities, they come together in people who have a mindset of problem solving and who can stay in dialogue. And I think that is what we need today, to embrace the challenge that we face as opportunities.
Are you talking about that from the specific perspective of metrology's, the way that the metrological community looks at what kind of leaders it's trying to nurture, or is it a more general societal point?
It's both. It's both. I don't think that it's a coincidence that the people I have been quoting were great revolutionaries in that time, and their horizontal basis was metrology. So if we learn from the past, then this is an example that we also would welcome today to keep up dialogue.
So you mentioned personal resilience, but particularly for our panelists coming from fast-growing regions, I'd open it to both of you. How important do you see NMIs as being to the current plan for resilience in either Asia or Africa? Henry, would you like to start off?
Thank you very much. I think, as I mentioned earlier, trade the driver is the quality infrastructure. And metrology is right in the middle of quality infrastructure. It's a driver of businesses. So when you look at our emerging economies, we really need measurements, I think, more than ever. So investment in those areas is very, very important. And I think I'm also happy that the big NMIs are now also stepping in to support in terms of capacity building. For example, BIPM, there is the capacity and knowledge transfer, that initiative which has really trained a lot of metrologists from developing countries. So I think there's a lot of initiative towards really refocusing metrology as a driver of economic development.
I mean, I just mentioned in terms of environmental aspects. So the government of India has very stiff targets, which they have announced, committed to the global community. For example, by 2030, 50% of the energy is supposed to come from non-fossil fuel based generation. So there is about 50 gigawatt of installations of solar solar panels in the country per year. Right, so these are stiff targets in which the government is pushing really hard to the industry. So as NMI, we look at supporting these initiatives. So for example, we have set up the solar cell calibration facility, and we have environmental monitoring equipment certification scheme, which is Asia's first in India recently. So we map the noise, around cities. We contribute to the metro constructions and other things, so for noise mapping and how to improve the noise mitigation, basically. So these are some initiatives which we carry out. So for example, water, I mentioned about Clean Ganga project. So in that, so basically we need water CRMs, the certified reference materials for water purity testing and other things. So we actively do with private partners, reference material producers. So we try and contribute as much to the environmental initiatives of the government of India, so that we provide the backbone for the government to deliver on its commitments.
So regardless of whether we're talking about the impact of climate change or changes in technology, Pascal, what's your take on how difficult or not it is to marry metrology's principles and practice in a world that's changing pretty quickly?
Yeah, it's not always so easy. I could give an example. In UTC, it was decided in 1971, when UTC was defined, that UTC should be in agreement with the Earth clock, so the time scale based on the Earth rotation, which is UT1. But UT1 is not completely stable because the Earth rotation rate is sometimes higher or slower. And so it was decided to add leap seconds in UTC to be in agreement with UT1, the Earth's rotation, essentially because there was still at that time a need for celestial navigation, so UTC had to be in agreement with UT1, and that is less and less the case because now we have satellite navigation which is available everywhere. And in addition to that, this leap second create a lot of problems in this changing world based on computers, digital clocks, digital systems, who have to manage sometimes 1 minute of 61 seconds, which is really complex. So different systems will put in place different ad hoc techniques to manage deep leap seconds. That means that during a leap second, or around the leap second, we can have errors of synchronization up to half a second, which is huge. And leap second occurs at UTC 0, so midnight UTC, which is the night in Europe, but it's during the day in Asia or in West America. So it creates a lot of problem, but even with that, so we have proposed, of course, the timing community has proposed to stop the 𝐊𝐴 because of the risk for all critical infrastructure. We have examples of real problems. There were airline companies where they had all flight delayed because there was a crash in the software, and thousands of passengers had to stay on the ground during several hours. Then there was radio communications problems somewhere, and so on. So really, there is a risk for critical infrastructure, and even with that, it's more than 20 years ago that we are trying to stop the 𝐊𝐴. So it's difficult because it's probably people have always difficulty to change. And there is not only scientists in the debate, but also politicians or people from the policy works. And so that can take some time. So now I can ensure that at the latest in 2035, we will stop this 𝐊𝐴. But yeah, it's a process that was not so easy, and we are still fighting to try to stop it as soon as possible.
Thank you so much, Pascal. So you sent out there that it's really important not to forget the social context within which all of this is happening. And Willie, you were talking about how the 𝐶𝐶QM initially really made it a goal to make sure that it was achieving some kind of social good. How hard is that? So you work, in one hand, you're working hard to align with the scientific community, but is the work that you're doing something that, like, a layman like me might care about, and is that even important to what you're doing?
I'm going to answer your question in a bizarre way.
Excellent.
I worked at NIST for 45 years. I never woke up one day saying, blank, I got to go to work. Because I knew that what we were doing had meaning, both to me, but also meaning to the greater society. So I could not have asked for anything more. I worked there 45 years, and less than 26 days over 45 years, which meant I went to work because when I was sick, but I enjoyed what I was doing enough that it was worth it to me. Maybe that wasn't what you were expecting, but that's how I'd answer your question.
It's still a lovely insight, so don't second guess yourself.
And also, I can extend that to the metrology community. Also, I could see the impact of work that we were doing. And you can't put a price on that.
Thank you so much, Willie. Pascal, so one of the things that crops up that I thought was super interesting, that I think maybe kind of links to what Willie has just highlighted, is that you think that following user needs is super important in terms of dictating what direction metrology goes into. What do you think metrology can do better in terms of reaching out to key industries or communities or even other scientific disciplines that, so that they can be in a better position to understand and offer solutions to potential problems?
Yeah, I think that certainly we have to go out of our community and to inform the stakeholders, the users, to educate them also, because they have to apply the metrology in their different fields. On the industry, we have examples in the telecommunication when they claim traceability to UTC. Sometimes they do not realize what is behind the word traceability, what they have to do to show, to demonstrate the traceability. And so that is the metrological community that has to explain and to educate the people so that they can also go further in their development and their performances, indeed.
Thank you. Dr. Ħiġ, so how do you think that the moves to make it easier for countries to associate with the BIPM without full membership might affect the work that metrology focuses on, and also the benefit that other countries not currently within the fold might be able to get from the existing official community.
Thank you very much. I think one area is, as we talked about, democratizing measurements and making it available. I know we have the 5 full members and 7 associates. What about the rest in a continent of 55 plus countries? So it means they are not actively members of the Meter Convention. But I think the initiative by BIPM to create another category would really benefit, because it means that they can be able to participate in some of the activities and be able to be part of the community that really works on measurements. Because in any case, we are all trading. We trade with these people. And so it's in our interest to make sure that they are also improving their measurement systems. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, with the African Continental Free Trade Area, where we're trying to open up markets, free access of goods. So it's very important that these countries can be able to have systems, can be able to have measurements which can be reliable, and also it can also improve the recognition of those measurements and facilitate trade. So it's very important that the initiative that has been done by BIPM to create that category where these countries who are not yet full members can be able to actively participate also in some of the measurement activities. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And in a bit of a check, I think we're kind of going back on this, but I think it's super fascinating creating this, because throughout the day, on this panel and its previous panels, we've constantly heard concern or just flagging that more has to be done to communicate the value of metrology in the right places. There was a very guilty moment when one of the speakers earlier today said that, anyway, it was one of the speeches about the history of the science. Now, I am a layman, and when I heard it described as being banal, after having spent so much time with people being so generous, speaking so passionately about something that has been so invisible for so many of us, holding things together, I felt a bit guilty. So, when it comes to helping metrology not only solve its own problems, but take up more space in the toolkit that we have in shaping our societies, do you think it is for metrology to do the pushing? And are the answers within metrology or the answers within wider society? Dr. von Siemens.
Oh, wow.
Chicken and egg.
Well, I think there's one word coming to my mind, and that's education. Specifically STEM education. So there is, if you look at the development of science and technology, it goes in something like that curve. If you look at the development of education, it also goes in that kind of a curve, but it is lagging. And while education is lagging behind technology and science, we see poverty. We see the bad times of the Industrial Revolution. Once people came up with the idea of school, where young children could learn the most important competencies they needed for this new age, then we come to a phase of social prosperity. And I think the same happens now. So, technology and science, metrology is advanced, and somehow people don't really know, and somehow people don't really know how to apply. So if we bring that to education, and now I'm really taking the perspective of the young ones, continents with large young populations, we need to take this perspective of the young ones. And if we integrate them, then we're going back to this promise of the better life, that this is there. And I very much believe STEM education has an incredible power of bringing great people, resilient, great people into this field, and keep up the dialogue about the benefits that it can have. So, education.
Thank you very much, Dr. von Siemens. Please, Willie.
I agree 300%. Certainly, we can talk about the impact of metrology on industrial productivity. We've been doing that forever. For the new generation, many of them have these ideals about improving the quality of life, and we can give lots of examples. Certainly, we do that in the chemistry and biology area. That's how we push it. Its impact on industrial productivity, but also its impact on the quality of life. And I've given talks around the world on that, and it always resonates when you give examples about the impact of metrology on the quality of lives.
Thank you so much. We've pretty much run out of time, but before I wrap up, I'd just like to whiz round very quickly our panel with just one final thought. Dr. 𝐕𝐻𝐻, please.
Good. Mine is just to urge the metrology community to continue in the same spirit, to work together, get the young metrologists on board, and open your doors. And not only your doors for us to come in, but also set out and visit those NMIs which are still lacking behind, so that you can also experience and see opportunities to support them. Thank you.
I've said enough. I'll just say it's so wonderful to be here hanging out with you guys.
So I just would like to reinforce your message. I think education is really important, and also going hand by hand with the user, the stakeholders, to understand their needs and to help them realizing their methodological needs. I think it's very important. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, as scientists, we all do high precision measurements, but metrology here, we talk about the high precision measurements for quality infrastructure. So for that, the only way forward is we work together, as we have been doing. We hold each other's back, and where possible, push each other to achieve greater heights.
Thank you.
Embrace complexity and help the ones that are not part of this great community here to also embrace complexity. This world needs data-driven, knowledge-based science. And we need you. We need people in this room. Thanks.
Thank you immeasurably to my panel, Dr. von Siemens, Professor Gopal, Dr. Dufresne, Professor May, Dr. 𝐕𝐻𝐻. It has been such a pleasure. Thank you all very much for staying with us for today. Let's give our panel a round of applause.